Spinoza. Why everything happens necessarily. The proposition that everything happens necessarily sounds, at first encounter, like a cold, deterministic hammer blow to the human spirit, seemingly crushing the cherished concepts of free will, choice, and spontaneity. Yet, within the dense, geometric prose of Baruch Spinoza's ethics, this idea, often called necessitarianism, unfolds not as a limitation, but as the deepest possible embrace of reality, freedom, and God itself. To truly grasp Spinoza's necessity, we must set aside the common, shallow critiques and dive into the profound structure of his metaphysics. The singular substance and the web of causality. At the heart of Spinoza's philosophy is the radical notion of one single, infinite, and eternal substance, which he alternately calls God or nature, Deus sive natura. This is not the transcendent, personal God of Abrahamic religions, but an immanent reality that is everything. Everything that exists, you, me, the stars, the feeling of joy, the concept of a square, is merely a mode, a modification of this one substance. Because there is only one substance, there can be no external cause to determine it or act upon it. The substance is self-cause, causa sui. It follows, then, that everything that flows from this substance must flow necessarily from its infinite, immutable nature. Think of it like a geometric truth. The fact that the sum of the angles of a triangle equals 180 degrees is not a matter of choice. It is an inescapable necessity that follows from the very definition of a triangle and the nature of space. In the same way, every event in the universe is a necessary consequence of the infinite chain of cause and effect within the substance of God nature. Spinoza articulates this in his Ethics. In the nature of things, nothing contingent is granted, but all things are determined from the necessity of the divine nature to exist and produce an effect in a certain way. The universe, therefore, is not a sequence of arbitrary events, but a single, vast, and perfect system of necessity. Dispelling the illusion of contingency. We commonly use the term contingency to describe things that could have been otherwise. We say, "I chose to have coffee this morning," implying that having tea was a real available alternative. Spinoza argues that this is an illusion, stemming from our limited, fragmentary perception. We perceive things as contingent because we are aware of some causes but not all of the causes that determined the event. If a stone is rolling down a hill and is suddenly stopped by a tree, we might call the stopping a chance event. But if we could trace every single factor, the stone's exact mass, velocity, and trajectory, the precise molecular structure and placement of the tree, the exact force and direction of the wind, the physical laws governing the interaction, we would see that the stop was inevitable. The sequence of events was as strictly determined as the path of a planet. Our feeling of could have been otherwise is simply a measure of our ignorance of the complete causal network. This applies directly to human actions. Our feeling of free will, the idea that the will is a power that can start a new undetermined causal chain, is simply a consequence of being conscious of our desires, but ignorant of the causes that determined us to desire and act. Spinoza would say, men believe themselves to be free precisely because they are conscious of their volitions and their appetites, and do not think, even in the remotest way, of the causes by which they are disposed to wanting and choosing. necessity as the path to true freedom and joy. Here is where Spinoza flips the script, transforming a seemingly grim determinism into a radical philosophy of liberation. If everything is necessary, where does freedom fit in? For Spinoza, freedom is not the ability to act outside of causality, it is the ability to understand and affirm causality. Bondage, servitus, is the state of being controlled by external forces, like emotions or circumstances, without understanding why you are being controlled. When you are angry, you are simply a passive effect of causes you don't grasp. You are enslaved to your passions. Freedom, libertas, is achieved when we gain an adequate idea of the causes that determine our emotions and actions. When we realize that a frustrating event was not arbitrary, but a necessary consequence of a chain of causes stretching back to the infinite substance, our passive suffering, passions, transforms into active understanding, actions. We cease to be merely acted upon and begin to act from an internal understanding. This understanding is what Spinoza calls the intellectual love of God, amor Dei intellectualis. When we grasp the necessity of all things, we see the universe as a single, perfect, and eternally necessary whole. We no longer rage against reality for not being what we wish it to be. Instead, we find a profound serenity and joy in the knowledge that it could not be otherwise. Our individual will aligns with the universal necessity of God nature. Spinoza's necessity, therefore, is not an argument for resignation or fatalism. It is an invitation to the radical embrace of reality. It is the path to moving from the chaotic, contingent world of our imagination to the serene, orderly, and eternally perfect world of reason and understanding. If this deep dive into Spinoza's profound and transformative philosophy has sparked a new way of looking at the universe, I encourage you to subscribe for more explorations of radical ideas. Don't forget to hit the like button to let me know you appreciate this kind of in-depth content. And please leave a comment below telling me what you find most challenging or most liberating about the idea that everything happens necessarily. Your thoughts drive the conversation.